So, Hunter x Hunter, the show that everyone seems to rave about as being one of the best in the modern shonen anime genre. It's about 4 or 5 episodes deep now in the English dub airing on Adult Swim, and I've gotta say, it certainly has hooked me in. I started watching Hunter x Hunter a few years ago in Japanese, and I got exactly as far as I am today, which is 4 episodes into the series, and I just never actually ended up continuing from there. I'm not exactly sure what it was, maybe the circumstances surrounding my life at the time, or maybe I just didn't find it quite as compelling as I do now, but I've gotta say, the Hunter x Hunter English dub does a lot right. From coming from a person who has seen very little of the Japanese, I don't have necessarily a solid foundation that I have to compare it to. I can look at it for just what it is and talk about the enjoyment I get from the series. Now, Hunter x Hunter opens up in a very interesting way. Tons upon tons of shonen battle anime have this tournament or exam arc, and a lot of them put it somewhere in there, but Hunter x Hunter opens right with the Hunter exam. And I think that's a key component in getting the viewer or the reader hooked on the series. That is, if you like that sort of thing. For me, the Dragon Ball, or the tournaments in Dragon Ball, I should say, were always really, really interesting. I love the Chunin exam arc in Naruto. I love the Grand Magic Games arc of Fairy Tail. Those are just 3 examples of series that have these very well put together, at least to a degree, um, arcs in which it's kind of like constant action. There are these subplots and other pieces of the narrative that get woven into these exams or tournaments, but there's always something very key on the line here, and that is to reach the top and be the winner. I think a lot of people, it's human nature to want to win, and so Hunter x Hunter starting out with this is kind of like one of those things that you either really like it or you really don't like it, and it's going to come entirely out of how do you feel about tournament and exam arcs in general. Like I said, I really like them, and it pulls me into the series because not only do I want to see what every single step of the way is, I want to see how the next exam is going to follow through, what the next challenge is going to be for the heroes, and it's sort of like placing yourself in the series and kind of seeing how you might react to these seemingly random circumstances. In Hunter x Hunter, they never know who the proctor really is, which is something you can't really say for Naruto. During the Chunin exam arc, the proctors were pretty well defined, being these very strong individuals who are supposed to kind of instill fear into the main characters. And in Hunter x Hunter, you're constantly questioning what the proctor's goals are, what their objectives are, and their motivation for doing so. They mention in the 3rd or 4th episode that the proctors of these exams aren't even paid, so you have to know these people are pretty legit right off the top. Also, you get to there's this sense of mystery in meeting the characters in the series because of the way it opens up. You don't really know any of the characters right off the top, so you can't really necessarily inherently root for somebody if you really want to. As the series progresses, you learn more about these characters. Like, for example, Leorio, what's his name? Leorio, I think that's his name. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that one, probably. But I remember when I was watching in Japanese, it's not necessarily, and this is so long ago, but like I didn't have this default interest in him that much. He was, his main character trait is money, but then you find out the reason behind it, and it's really cool. The reason he is so kind of obsessed with getting money and having enough money is because he didn't at a time, and it cost the life of one of his friends. And honestly, I think a lot of people can relate to that. For a number of people in my age, can really understand what it's like to be living, kind of paycheck to paycheck, kind of living on the brink of just having enough. And I think that is a really interesting trait that makes him likable for somebody like me. I've already kind of been predisposed to Killua. Killua is kind of this really and for those of you who are Hunter x Hunter veterans, you're going to be like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. And that's true, because I'm only 4 episodes in. But Killua, as far as I know, is kind of like the Hiei of the show. As you guys may or may not know, Hunter x Hunter is created by the same guy who did Yu Yu Hakusho. And Hiei was my favorite character in that series. I tend to typically gravitate towards characters in that archetype. Hiei, Sasuke, Gray, Killua. So like I said, I have a predisposition towards him, and that's just something that comes from person to person. Gon is a lot like the character archetype, as far as I know, Goku, Luffy, etc. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Gon is a very interesting character, but as I was saying with Lazario, is he says he's a teenager just like them. Like for example, Killua and Gon, and I think Kurapika. I think they're all around 12 or so. But he looks so much older than that. But he says that, so I really wonder, like, how old actually is this guy? Because that's kind of what I was identifying with him, is because he's older, and I'm certainly not 12 years old anymore. So I'm really excited to see where these characters go. I think the main villain is the dude with who has the playing cards and like the pale skin and the heart or whatever on his face. I don't like the main villain, at least for the first arc or so. Like I said, I really don't know a lot other than what I've sort of been spoiled on or just happened to come across while browsing different series online. And I'm really glad to be able to go into the show fresh. So with that being said, how does the English dub stack up? Well, let's kind of talk about a few of the characters themselves. I don't remember anything like spectacular from the Japanese dub of the show. I don't remember there being anything wrong with it either, but the English dub just kind of flows so well for me. I think Gon's voice actress is great. If I remember correctly, it is also the girl who played Ryuko in Kill la Kill, and she does such a good job separating those two characters. They're very different characters in general. Obviously, one is male and one is female, but she does a very, very solid job in making Gon her own. He sounds decently like his Japanese voice, but that's not necessarily anything that you have to do. I think it's a plus if you can sound similar, but at the same time, being an actor is playing a character and getting your own version of the character instilled within you. And I don't think that being an actor is not replicating somebody else, and that's just the fact of the matter. She makes Gon her own from what I've seen, and I really do like that. And I can say the same for Matt Mercer, who plays the dude who I'm not going to try to pronounce his name one more time. He does a really good job in solidifying that sense of urgency, that sense of playfulness in a way, the stupidity that he has, and that serious side that we get to examine when he talks about his reasonings behind really wanting to have money. And I don't know who plays Kurapika, but that individual does a good job as well. I don't really have a whole lot of comments because, like I said, I'm only 4 episodes in, so it's really hard to differentiate any sort of issues. And Christina V, who plays Killua, actually did a really solid job. I knew who she played him. I don't think she's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I was really wondering how much he's going to end up sounding like some of her other roles. And she does a very nice job, once again, of differentiating Killua from some of the other stuff she's done, some of the other more tomboyish or some of the other more rough around the edges characters. And Killua needs to be that way, as far as I know. So those are kind of the main characters. Killua just got introduced in the last episode I watched. I think episode 5 aired last night on Adult Swim, but I have yet to watch it. And as far as I know, it's like the villains and some of the background characters, they all seem good too. I don't remember who plays the main villain, but I remember he's done a few other series that I do enjoy. He's really, I think, is it Keith Silverstein? He's good. He's definitely gets that creepy, that kind of not really seductive, but that really strange side of the character, and I do appreciate that for sure. Solid performances all around. Audio design, as far as I am aware of, is pretty good as well. So you're getting a very solid package so far. My only concern in the long run is I know Hunter x Hunter's manga isn't over yet, so like, what the heck did the anime do? I don't want to know, but like, did they make up their own ending a la the original Fullmetal Alchemist, or did they just kind of put it on pause, sort of like Fairy Tail has done as of right now? I'm really hoping both of those series, Fairy Tail and Hunter x Hunter, will come back once the manga has kind of developed a bit more and come to a more, come closer at least to having a conclusion in the ground. So that's about it as far as my initial first impressions of the Hunter x Hunter dub. I'm really excited to see where the series goes. I know a lot of people have said that Hunter x Hunter has somewhat of a slow start, and I can definitely see that. And I think if it weren't for the fact that I do enjoy exam-style arcs, I would probably agree entirely with that statement, but I know a lot of people say it gets pretty dark. It's not as lighthearted as it looks initially, so I'm really, really excited to see where that goes in the future. I really do enjoy a series that can go on both ends of the spectrum, and Hunter x Hunter, apparently, from what fans have said, seems to have the ability to do that. So if you guys have been keeping up with the Hunter x Hunter English dub, I would love to know what you think as well. Please do not put any spoilers in the comments for any of the series I've talked about, or anything in general, because that's just kind of rude. Just go ahead, please leave a comment like I was saying. Let me know what you think of the dub. If you've been watching the show in Japanese, if you've seen it all, if you've read the manga, let me know if my impressions are different than yours, because you inherently are probably going to have a different feeling and a different understanding for what these characters are than I will at a first glance. So as always, if you guys have enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. It helps out tremendously, and I will catch you guys next time.